In this video, we're going to be looking at Luminar Neo's new Generative Erase and Generative Swap tool, two powerful AI tools that can help you erase things out of your photos and add some new elements into them. So we're going to be looking at a variety of photos. We have a food photography photo, a couple of real estate photos, a lifestyle portrait, and kind of push these tools through a professional setting to see if we can use them to clean up our photos and enhance them. So let's get into it right now. So if you aren't familiar with Luminar Neo, it is a very powerful photo editor with a bunch of different tools. Really powerful tools like sky replacements, enhancing your photos, AI tools like the Generative Erase and Generative Swap tool that just got introduced. And so I figured it would be great to bundle these together and showcase them in one video because they are pretty similar, but can be used in different circumstances. So let's check some of these out now. So full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Luminar Neo, but I am still gonna just be showing you how I use these two tools in real life professional scenarios. So let's dive into it. So when you're first in your catalog setting in Luminar Neo, you have your generative tools right here on the side. So we have the Generative Erase and Generative Swap tool. So Generative Erase came out first and I've been using it and it's been working pretty well. And then Generative Swap came out and another powerful tool. And if you're familiar with Photoshop's Generative Fill add-on, this is the same concept. And I just love the fact that the two tools are separated. One dedicated for erasing things out of your photos and another one for adding new elements in. And a couple of things to note before we get into it, you do have to have an internet connection because essentially whenever we do anything, whether we're using Generative Erase or Generative Fill, what it's gonna do is basically send it up to the cloud, do its AI thing, come back. So you do have to have an active internet connection, otherwise it's not gonna work. So let's dive into the first photo right now, which is gonna be this lifestyle portrait, which another thing I really wanna highlight that I haven't really made videos around yet is something that I've been doing with real estate teams, basically doing monthly content for them. And it's been really great because it's been creating a new baseline for my business every month. And once I start doing it more and getting more familiar with it, gonna be making a lot of content around that next year, but just super excited on it. But here we have a really cool lifestyle photo. Funny enough, this is the real estate team I used to work for that I mentioned in the channel however many years ago before I started going off on my own. And here we are again, now they're a client for my business and it's really awesome. But here, clear as day, you see a problem and we see this big old softbox reflection right here. One of the most annoying things to deal with. But with all these new generative AI fill tools, I wasn't worried about it. Took a gamble and I was like, I love this composition. Even the real estate side of me came out where I have my perfect verticals here, my horizontal lines. So it just makes sense to me. A lot of my lifestyle photography is like that, funny enough. But I was like, I'm gonna take a gamble and see if I can erase this with Luminar Neo's new erase tool. Let's get into it right now and see if it's gonna work. So you come over here to hit Generative Erase, and I love that it's just so easy to figure this out. It's not a bunch of steps or complicated. Down here, you have your Generative Erase, you have your back button, forward button, info button to just let you know more about it. You can see before and after, you can control your zoom. So, you know, if we want to zoom into 100% right here and just go back to fit to screen, select, deselect the size of our brush, which works the same with our bracket keys. And then once we make a selection, if we didn't want that, we can just hit reset selection, do that. And once we have our selection, just hit erase. Other thing I wanted to highlight is this is probably the first video ever that I'm using a lapel mic. I'm using the DJI Lav mic, which I use for all of my client work, funny enough. And it's so nice that I don't have a big boom arm or have to worry about, you know, where the mic is. And I just wanted to mention that because I don't know if it's gonna sound different. Let me know if it sounds good, but I just love the flexibility of this now. And I'm probably gonna get used to this, funny enough, because the cable on my Rode Video Mic Pro got messed up. So I gotta figure that out. So let's head over here to the Generative Erase tool. And the goal is to just replace this with the rest of that tree. And I'll even show you that if I were to just go to the regular erase tool, so if I were to go over here to edit and then come over here to erase and try and do that, it's not gonna work because it's using the existing pixels or the existing information in the photo to try and recreate it. And as you can see, when we do this, you know, we select it, hit erase, that looks awful. That didn't work because there's not enough information for it to kind of just fill it with what's around it versus Generative Fill AI to actually recreate information that isn't there, kind of just analyzing what should go there. So let's go back to this, hit GenErase, and now let's try it this way. So I'm just gonna go highlight the whole thing, kind of highlighting a little bit more than I need just to make sure it gathers everything it needs. So kind of just fill that in right there. Cool thing is too, you don't have to do this in one click. You know, you can just cover all the spots you need to do. Now, let's say for example though, that I wanted to clone this spot and this reflection here, which I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna do it all in the same step because there's only a certain size, a certain dimension it can recreate at a time. So I believe that that number is 1536 by 1536. That's the amount of pixels it can do, which is bigger than Photoshop's. But if I basically do these at the same time, it's trying to recreate this whole area. So you basically basically just want to do that for the generative erase tool. Just do it in sections and you'll get much more accurate results and not pixelated, low resolution looking areas. So I'm gonna get rid of that and I'm gonna go right here and hit erase and let's see what we get. So while you're waiting, another thing to note, this does take a little bit of time because it's going up to the cloud, analyzing it, coming back. You have this little animation thing going on that kind of follows your mouse, or you can just leave it and it's gonna do its own thing. But that is a thing to note. So if you're planning to do this, whether it's generative erase or generative swap or any sort of AI effects to your photos, it takes time. So you just have to find something else to do while you wait. Right off the bat, it looks a lot better than what we did. So if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't know that, hey, that area looks kind of funny. I do wish it kind of filled in the rest of it. So what we're gonna do now is just try again. So I'm gonna keep the same selection and I'm just gonna hit erase one more time and see if we get a better result. So a new thing I've picked up is a tech deck. I used to play with these so much when I was younger. And now since I'm waiting around for a lot of stuff, I just sit here and play with it. So we can just enjoy some. Did you see that kickflip? That was perfect. I am kind of a pro since I just do this while I'm waiting for videos to export. Water break. Fans of The Office, leave a comment down below. And kind of similar results, but it honestly looks a lot better. So I love that this looks natural. Like if someone were to see this photo, they're not just like, hey, that kind of looks kind of funny, but it recreated a lot of that tree and now it just completely got rid of that reflection. You wouldn't know that there was a softbox here. And kind of like cinematography, since I do a lot more video work now, honestly, more than lifestyle type of photography, I still follow the same concepts. I put my softbox here, kind of wrapping this light coming in from the window. So now that you don't have that softbox there, it looks really natural and you just think that it's the window lighting her perfectly. So that's what I always aim for. I don't want it to look obviously flashy is what I'm going for, I guess. But this was shot on my Canon R6 with my Sigma 35mm 1.4 art lens. It's my go-to for lifestyle photography, not too wide, not too tight. And one softbox with my Godox 80-200 Pro flashing right at her, wrapping that light, and it came out great. Love using off-camera flash because you get accurate, nice colors and you can control every aspect of your lighting. But that looks great. So now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna reset my selection because I don't want it to do that again. And I'm gonna highlight this area right here, just like that. And we're gonna hit erase. And there we go. So let's go see before and after. So here's before and after. That's awesome. Both of those results came out perfect. I would not know that, hey, it looks like something had been done to either of these photos. And another thing to note, this is not just like a one-time, one click and it's gonna be a perfect result every time. Especially once we get to the generative swap side where you do prompts and you have to redo them to try and fine tune them. You just have to understand this is gonna take some time, but it's worth it because this cleaned up my photo really well and I'm much happier with that because now there's no reflections of that stuff whatsoever. Try and take it a step further and I'm gonna see if I can just get rid of this car because that's kind of the first thing I see. Okay, so honestly, not that bad. It kind of put in some trees over there, put in some, I don't know what that is right there, but I don't know. I think that might be better than all of that stuff in there. So I'm just gonna hit save and just leave it at that. And then another thing to note that is really awesome, that these generative creations are non-destructive, meaning it makes another version of your original. So in case you're like, man, I really wish I didn't do this and I would have done things differently, you have that original photo still. That's actually another great thing that I like too. Okay, so let's move on to another one. Let's go over here to something that some of my viewers might be more familiar with, which is real estate photography. Do a lot of real estate photography. I run a real estate media business and things like this are stuff that I run into all the time. And so funny enough, that's my car. I was in a rush. I was like, I just need to get the room and I'll deal with it later. I feel like either we had bad weather coming in or just there was some reason why I didn't actually go out and move my car. But this was a really frustrating shoot because there was workers outside. And as you can see, here's the ladder. I try to angle it the best way, but this was the best perspective of the room. And we have a porta potty, whole bunch going on. So this would be a pain to clone out step by step or little by little because there isn't a lot of information to clone in the first place. So again, we're gonna go to generative erase. I'm gonna zoom in closer here, go to maybe like, I don't know, 100%, get a view of that window and make my brush a little bit bigger and kind of highlight this whole section. Since it's only a little section of the photo, I'm gonna do all of it at once. Should be okay to do that. If it was a much bigger spot of the image, then I would probably just do it little by little. Okay, so I think I got everything highlighted. Yeah, let's see what we get. I also just installed my PS4 over here in my office to play on this ultra wide monitor and it is sick. Normally I have it plugged into like my living room, but sometimes my wife's watching a movie or just I'm over here most of the time. So I plugged it in over here and I've been liking that. So let me know what your favorite games are. Plus I need some recommendations. Kind of bored of some of my video games. Played The Last of Us series. That was probably the best games I've played recently. Wow. Okay, so that did a really great job. Let's zoom in closer. Man, I wouldn't know that there was anything there. You know, this little spot right here kind of got dark on the driveway, but it just basically replaced it with greenery. And again, at first glance, if you're just looking at this photo, you're like, yeah, yeah, I wouldn't notice that's something weird or something. So you have to be careful, obviously, especially for real estate, that you're not recreating things that are not there and could be kind of like false advertising or something like that. But in this case, we removed the ladder and the corner of my car, so I think that's totally fine. So there you go. That's a great example on how you could use this for real estate work, no problem. So go ahead and hit save, and we're gonna be good to go. So now let's look at the generative swap tool, which is essentially a really awesome tool where you can swap the elements out of your photos. You can add new things, change things, whatever you need to manipulate in your photo with a certain prompt that you want generative AI to fill it with something, that's what that's gonna be for. And in this case, we're gonna try it out on this photo. So we're gonna go over here to GenSwap, and first off, this is one of my favorite real estate photos I've taken because it is not your typical front exterior real estate photo. Usually you stand right in front of the home at a super wide angle lens, and I did the opposite for this. Obviously, I did take that photo, but I also took this one, and this is the one that the agent used for the listing. I think that's really cool. Just saw that composition rounding around the home, and I think it looks just, you know, draws you in really nicely. But we're gonna use the generative swap tool for one thing, and that is that the agent, particularly, they were just kind of bummed that this tree was dead. You know, I can't remember if this was closer to wintertime or something that happened to this tree, but the seller said that it's full of pretty flowers and this and that. They wish they could have that. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know what to do about that since this stuff wasn't out then. But what we're gonna do is essentially just kind of circle this whole area and see what kind of result we get the first time. So let's say green leaves and flowers. You want to avoid saying things like add or remove, or you just want to be as specific as you can as far as the color, sizing, what you're going for. And you'll see kind of once we dive into this more that that first go around might not be the best, and you might see the result you get, tweak your selection, tweak your prompt, and kind of get closer to the results you want. Now, one thing I do want to know too is like, this is the early stages. Like, it only gets better from here. Can't imagine how good this is going to be, you know, in a year from now, 3 years from now. It's probably going to be just a game changer. So let's see what we got. Here's what we had before. Now we have a lively tree, which is pretty amazing. So it didn't give me the flowers, but it added a lush green tree. So that would have been a lot better than not having that. This is where it gets really complicated because especially for real estate photography, this could be like, you know, false advertising. Someone could go see the home and be like, hey, that tree looks like it's perfectly in bloom and here it is dead. So I'm not gonna really touch that. All I'm trying to showcase is that you can do these types of things, but I think if you're an agent and you do some manipulations like this, you should probably highlight that in the caption, like tree is altered or whatever it is. And so personally, for our work, we don't manipulate a lot of things. We kind of shoot it as is, enhance things like obviously if it's a gray sky, touch up the grass a bit, but not over the top. So let's see, I'm gonna reset my selection, and this time I'm just gonna hit little spots. I'm gonna like go like this, and just do, let's see, what do y'all think? Maybe white flowers. This is a really cool pen because it has a built-in leveler. So I use it all the time. I'm like, hey, is my monitor level or something? Pretty handy. Plus it has a ruler on the side. Yeah, it's very nice. I'm just thinking of random things to do while this is generating. Okay, so we got nothing. Interesting. So let's see, let's zoom in here. We didn't really get anything. So let's turn it off and let's go back to where we were before. You can use this to go back to whatever you need. So let's kind of just remove all of those. But I wanna keep what we already got, which is at least we greened it up. Because again, sometimes this just might not work and you might not get the results that you want. It just takes time, as you can see, you know, send it in, new prompt, adjust your selection. But I just love that the possibilities are endless. So you can honestly take this as far as you want. I'm mostly interested for professional work to see how this can enhance, you know, my daily workflow with the lifestyle photography, do real estate photography, other things like that. And so I think it's gonna be a great addition though, just with what you saw already. Like those erase functionalities were great. Moving on to the next one, let's go to our last example, which is probably gonna be a little bit far-fetched for what we're about to try on this, but that's why we're trying this out. We're gonna go to GenSwap, and on this food photography shoot in particular, which if you're interested on learning more about this, I'll link the video up here where I actually broke down how I shot this food photography session for a local water park. But this plate and example, they had wished that we were able to get strawberries on the top. So for whatever reason, we didn't get to do that, so we had to shoot it with just powdered sugar. And you know, in another scenario, it's just like, well, yeah, too bad, we obviously couldn't. We'd have to shoot it another time. So what I'm interested is, what if we select this whole area? So I'm gonna go a little bit farther than we need and just try and add in strawberries. Could this be possible to be used like professionally in the near future? So I'm gonna say sliced strawberries with powdered sugar. Send that off. I'm pretty excited about this one. But yeah, this was something that I normally don't do, which is food photography, and they absolutely loved it. We basically redid their whole menu selection with these really cool photos and cool setups. Yeah, it was a pretty fun shoot. Let me know down below if you do food photography, because that's something I don't really do, but totally would do some more. Not bad. Interesting. That's just crazy that it can do this. So I don't know what this is here. It kind of put like a base on it, but we got cut strawberries with some powdered sugar. This is another thing. I wish you could retouch the thing it generates a little bit. If I could match it a little bit, like maybe blur a little bit of the side, because as you can see here by the waffle or whatever this is, it's kind of more blurred out, but then right up here, the strawberries are mostly in focus. It could be a little bit more passable that way. And if I could kind of retouch the reds a bit, but let's try again. So let's just do strawberries with powdered sugar. So same selection, changing it up a bit and just see another variation of it. Ew. Are you kidding me? That looks so good and delicious. Also, both ways. Like, I'd love to just eat that, devour that right now, along with that coffee. Wow, that looks really, really good. Like, I'm mind blown right now. Like, I don't have anything I would want to retouch about that. We have some realistic depth of field here on these edges, which is what I wanted with the first variation. Powdered sugar put on top like it was before. As we can see, here's the before and after. And the fact that it just like textures it in there and everything, I'm just mind blown. Like, here's before, here's after. That looks like it was shot like that 100%. Like, I would just, maybe again, if I could just like retouch like the color of the strawberries, tone them down a little bit, but that's insane. I wish I had this for this gig, because I could be like, hey, remember how you wish we had strawberries on this dish? Here you go. And they would probably be like, oh my gosh, that looks really good. I'm mind blown right now. Save. A mistake I keep making is to save the photo. I keep hitting swap or erase when it's up here at the top. So hit save and that's it. That's good to go. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. That is the most realistic generative fill thing I've gotten so far. So if you want to go to photos that you've generative manipulated, you go over here to a new folder that it creates, which is generative creations, and you can see all of those photos here. So here's something I want to try, kind of pushing this generative swap since we got such good results there. What if you can do virtual staging with this? Let's test it out. Completely don't have any expectations for this. I do not think this is gonna work, but I'm gonna say this whole section. Let's just put bed and see what we get. Can you imagine if that's the future of this type of stuff, where you can just now, boop, office or desk, bedroom set, and it just can populate it and you can swap it out? Oh man, that's probably around the corner. I know it is. I'm so interested to see what we're about to get. And I give you nothing. Okay, for some reason that totally didn't work. Let's reset our selection and we'll do this spot here, for example, and we'll do, how about office desk? Maybe we're not there yet in this version yet. You know, this obviously just launched and it's only gonna get better from here. I really think that's gonna be around the corner. That's gonna be so helpful. Okay, it attempted. The fact that it attempted it got some weird results. But like I said, it's gonna be there soon. Let's go back and I'm gonna try this one more time. I really think that we can maybe get some sort of bed action going here. Small bed set. Is that how you would probably describe that? Y'all will probably be so much better with the prompts than I am. For me, I'm just like, blue, one word, this, versus being like as descriptive as I should be. Okay, it attempted to generate a bed. Not sure what kind of bed that is, who would actually use that, but hey, I wanted to just try it out. Last thing I do want to try is like, what if we just did something very small? What if we did something like right here and we were like, a painting that is framed? I guess I could have put a framed painting. It actually did it. Now it kind of looks a little funky right here on the side, but hey, it works. This is something that can be done. Wow, so look at that. I did not think any of this stuff was gonna work. I was just kind of messing around like, hey, maybe it can just generate a little bit of things like for virtual staging stuff for real estate, but here it generated a painting. You could totally clean this up right here on the side, you know, just with the clone stamp tool. And here it generated a little potted plant that you would put in, you know, if you were to stage this room, most likely. Obviously it had trouble generating that whole thing, which is to be expected, but the fact that this is probably like around the corner, this is maybe like a couple updates away, or by next year, this is gonna be in full blown, be able to generate stuff like that. I'm just gonna go ahead and save that and just leave it because that just is absolutely crazy. So there you have it. That is a first look at Luminar Neo's new GenErase and GenSwap. Two really powerful AI tools that I'm definitely gonna be using and keep in my toolbox because as you can see, it works pretty well, but you just have to remember you have to put the time into it. And for generative swap, just be really good with your prompts and understand that it's gonna take maybe more than one or a couple times of generating new things to get the results that you want. But the fact that we were able to generate strawberries on this that looks really realistic, fix that tree to look more lively and green, that we were able to clone out all that stuff from the window view and add in some virtual staging if we wanted to, and remove that softbox from the window, mind-blowing. Just the fact that this stuff is now at our disposal and just gonna get better from here. So if you're interested in picking up Luminar Neo, you can head to the link in the description, and I would love to hear your thoughts if you've been using generative swap GenSwap and generative erase already. Let me know what kind of results you're getting and some other types of photos that you've been trying these tools on. So leave a like if you enjoyed, comment down your thoughts, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love for you guys to be part of the channel. And thanks again to Luminar Neo for sponsoring this video. Check them out below. See ya.